Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is the WiX Online Meeting 300. Nice big round number. October, halfway through it. We're towards the tail end of the year. That means exciting things. We have some stuff to cover for those of you that aren't with us right here, right now. That's recorded. For everybody that is with us right here, right now, you're being recorded. Just, I'm supposed to say that. All right. We'll do triage. That's not going to take us too long because we don't have a lot of things to triage, which is all good. And then I have a couple requests for comment. And I'm very glad to see that we got a bunch of regulars in the chat that hopefully can chime in if they have any opinions and thoughts. And then I'll take general questions, comments, things like that that always come up. And then we'll have a meeting and we'll call it good. So on that note, let's go do triage. Oh, and Bob's back. Yay, everybody say yay, Bob's back. I had to do all this by myself last week, and that only works so good. Much better with Bob here. All right. All right, we ready? Bob, you ready?
I am ready.
All right. We have two issues, and I think these are going to go easy. Oh, and we have a Zach. Yeah, all right. Yep, I agree. Yay, Bob's back. Okay, 9172, confusing error log line that's not actually an error. And if you look at this code, we have an exit on null being used to check a 0 and setting the HR to SOK. It's all 100% not the correct way to have written this code. And so I agree with this. And I actually have a fix locally. So feel free to give this to me in WiX 7 and it will be fixed.
Okay.
Small change, easy change, but yeah, it should not have ever been that way.
Yeah, it's not the only instance though of say abusing the exit macros.
Yeah, well, exit on null is for failures when null is a bad thing, not
Right.
for actual errors. Yeah, only for actual errors. Exactly. Anyway, I agree with this person. This will get fixed in WiX 7. 9175. I opened this. Support prefer per machine dual mode MSI packages. So I was messing around with dual mode packages because I've had some people asking about them and things like that. And in my experimentation, I came to realize that we have a per user package scope, which does the right thing. We have a per machine package scope, which does the right thing. And we have a per user or machine setting, which does the right thing to create you a per user package that can be switched to per machine. But I was trying to create a package that was dual mode, that was per machine, but could act as per user. And given the way that we wrote this in WiX, I wrote this in WiX 6, 5, whenever we added this, to prevent people from getting into the bad state of writing a per user package that installed per machine, which was really, really, really bad, that this was missing. So I think we should add this. And I thought about it for a while, lots of different ways to do it. And I think this is the cleanest way, is actually to say per machine or user, which basically means you're per machine, or you can be user. That gives you dual mode, and you default depending on which one is first. I think that makes a lot of sense if you see it, and then a tiny little documentation probably will clean up the rest.
So the only difference is that this new scope setting would not set the MSI install per user property.
Yeah, in the end, that's all you have to do is not set the MSI install per user. But because we set it, you can't unset it without like setting things on the command line. You have to do work, and it's not easy. And if you want a per machine, but the ability to switch to per user, which made a lot of sense to me is in my testing. It's like, I want to be per machine, but if I go per user, do the thing. I was like, I can't actually get this right. Like the only way is you have to hack the MSI at the end. WiX prevents you from getting this state. I was like, that's not good. I don't like it. So I'll fix it, which is why I already pre-assigned this to me to do the work.
Yeah, I'm just I've been looking at how to support dual mode packages in Burn.
Yes. So when you get
And
there, I
so,
have learned a lot and have little tiny details that you'll want to think about when you do that.
well, I'm curious. So, sorry, I'm curious whether we can distinguish between the two.
We
And I
can.
think right now the only difference is MSI install per user. They would both have all users equals 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All states can be detected, which is important because you did a fix not too long ago for the decompiler support for
Yeah.
one of these settings. And I had that change and I was looking at it going, that's interesting. So then when I was doing the per user stuff, I immediately went back to your change and decompiler went, yeah, we can't get to this other state. That's not good. So I will also fix the decompiler. I have your change and I will update it a little bit, but we can totally tell from the MSI, all 4 states, we will do the right thing and it'll all work.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Yep. Yeah, dual mode is interesting. Yes, there are cleanup challenges if you do it. The important thing I want to do here, Jacob, is that I want to make sure that we have not prevented you from creating a valid state. Because the goal when we introduced package scope was to prevent people from getting into a bad state, which we allowed them to do because we let you change too many dials and didn't cross-validate them correctly. And we're still seeing people pop up. How do I handle this? And we're like, you can't, that state doesn't really work. This whole per user machine or per user package that installs per machine, like everything gets really jacked up. Anyway, this is better. And this finishes the gap in the space, which I didn't want to leave. So,
and we definitely need to support this well. Dual mode packages are almost certainly the way we want to go, instead of the current approach, which is you can have per user packages or per machine packages. But
yeah.
per user packages end up with ICE38 and
Yeah.
all
So,
these other.
no doubt, this is much better, and this will line us up. This is just a correctness fix inside WiX. We need this. That's my argument.
Yeah.
And then
Agreed.
if Burn supports dual mode packages, that'll also make a bunch of people happy because there's been asks for that as well, which is already open and Bob has and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll see. All right. So that's issues, which means we can come back here and we could talk about the 2 things I want to talk about today because I didn't think triage would take very long. Generally, it's all good stuff. All right. First thing. It's time to decide if WiX v7 will support .NET 8 or .NET 10. .NET 10 is about a month out, as this says. .NET 6 is out of service, and we're already getting the warnings, errors about that. So we need to move to a supported version of .NET, which is fine. This is what we do. The question is, do we pick .NET 8 for WiX 7 because it has the broadest adoption and it will still be in service when we release WiX 7, but it will be out of service 7, 8 months. Yeah, after we release.
The missing math here.
Yeah, you're right. I should have put that there. Support ends at 13 months, but WiX releases in April, which is about 5-6 months from now. So there's like 7 or 8 months of 8 being in service. Or do we move to .NET 10, which is not in the market yet, but it will have been for about 5 months by the time WiX 7 is released. And
would be supported for the entirety of the WiX 7 lifetime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That probably should be. That's a good point. It should be supported for the whole lifetime. So, should we move to .NET 10? Clearly, we're going to move up to at least 8. We're not going to go to 9 because that's a short term, whatever it's actually called. Is it short term service? Whatever it's called.
Yeah, and they've been playing with that.
Yeah, whatever the name is. It's an odd one, which means we're not going to pick it for long term uses. So we'll pick the even ones. It's fine. We can deal with the even ones. That's all good. We don't need anything in .NET 10, although there's some perf improvements. But we're not doing anything. We're not planning to do anything to take advantage of those in a major way in WiX 7. So it's kind of do we move to .NET 10? And the only concern that I really have is, does that mean there's a bunch of machines out there that don't have .NET 10 on them that you have to deal with? Like that's probably the biggest problem.
That's only going to affect people using Wix.exe, right?
Correct, because WiX 7 will also be a .NET framework app still targeting Net 4.7.2 and all that good stuff. So right. if you use MS Build, if you use MS Build, .NET Framework MS Build, you'll get a .NET Framework WiX. If you use .NET to build, then you will need .NET 10. So if you want to use .NET build, you'll have to use .NET 10 build if we move or you have to have .NET 10 installed, which I guess you don't have to use .NET 10 build. Yeah, you won't have to use .NET 10 build, but you have to use .NET 10 to run. And yeah, and this is all build time. The build machines will need .NET 10 if you're running on the .NET world.
But
Basically,
to
if you
be
have for some reason in April of next year a machine that only has .NET 8 on it and you want to build with .NET 8 and not MS Build from .NET Core, then you will not. It will not work. It will tell you need .NET 10.
but to be clear, that there are two build time dependencies here. One is building WiX. The other is using WiX to build your packages. The
Oh,
problem we get right now is that .NET 6 is out of support, and so building WiX, you get glaring error messages.
yeah. That's why I'm doing the work now. I'll get that's going to be solved now, real quick, and then the question is, what do we want to ship with?
Yeah.
And I'm we'll do the right thing in the Wix build process. I'm not worried about. It's a pain in the butt to get right, but we'll get it right. The question is, what should we expect of people to have on their machines April of 2026? Do we implement .NET 8, 9, 10 logic to match a package where they are frequently resigning? Do we? Are you afraid? I don't know that we haven't kept up with all of the various .NET bundles inside Wix. Like we haven't tried to keep up with all of those. Nobody's wanted to take over the maintenance of that to keep it working everywhere. If you're asking about the package references, the package groups for .NET, installing .NET. Yeah, well, .NET Core doesn't tend to re-sign because they don't tend to reship very often.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been less of an issue for them. They don't tend to last super long because they're rotating them all the time. But yeah, whatever. So I'm generally seeing people lean towards just go with .NET 10. I think that's the way you're leaning, right, Bob?
Yeah, there's. It's so awkward. The quote unquote long term servicing releases only lasting 3 years because we end up where we're straddling
Yep.
the out of service date, and that's just it's weird. I think .NET 10 coinciding with Visual Studio 2026, I believe, is going to be reasonably popular.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an adoption blocker.
Yeah. It'll probably be on most of the CI systems, and that's more thing. Is there something we're trying to avoid? No, the only thing to avoid is .NET 8 adoption is expected to be higher than .NET 10 adoption. Therefore, picking .NET 8 could be considered safer than .NET 10 because theoretically it's been around longer, therefore more people are on it. At the same time, it's going to go out of service, 6-7 months after, and we're going to probably be running on .NET 10 in most cases anyway. The roll forward would allow us to do that. So it's just kind of the bet on 8, bet on 10. Yeah, all right. So I don't have a strong feeling. Maybe we'll just float it out there. It sounds like we're leaning towards 10, which is fine. Maybe I'll float the question a little wider, see if anybody has anything that might say, oh yeah, it's really hard for us to move to .NET 10, so .NET 8 would be better. I don't know. But it sounds like we're leaning towards, just move to .NET 10 and declare a victory. So,
worst case, .NET 8, roll forward, we're fine.
Correct. Yes. Worst case is we choose our baseline is .NET 8, and that means it will run on 9 and 10 and whatever.
Yeah.
So, correct. That is correct. All right. So, we're leaning towards 10, and I'll go ask around a little bit more, and we'll see from that. Okay. So, all right. Next thing, something I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm kind of looking more for poking holes in it being a bad idea because I think it's a pretty good idea given all the other options that I've been floating around. All right, so Wix v7. By now, everybody on chat is probably very aware of the open source maintenance fee and everything that's been involved in the Wix toolset here. If you're not and you're new here, open source maintenance fee is for organizations that make money, generate revenue, pay a maintenance fee to keep Wix running to do things like, well, we just have to update Wix from .NET 6 to .NET 8 because if we don't, the build breaks, for example. That's one of the many things we do in the maintenance type spaces. It keeps Wix alive, running, working, all that kind of good stuff. And it's generally good for open source. The idea here is to, in Wix 7, to add a command line switch that is required that you add accept EULA on the wix.exe. So you just do wix.exe accept EULA to basically say that, yeah, I know there is a open source maintenance fee EULA. And if you don't, it tells you, hey, there's no open source maintenance fee. You have to accept the EULA kind of thing. And then, of course, expose it as an MS build property. So you can set accept EULA property. This comes around because the original hope when we released this was that the .NET team would respect their require license acceptance, which is in NuGet packages, because we have a EULA in there. It would be great if the act of installing the .NET tool, the act of adding a package to your project would prompt and say, hey, this requires license acceptance. Visual Studio does do this in the UI, which is great. But that only will work for NuGet packages you add as references to an existing Wix project, so basically Wix extensions. So this was a lightweight way that I came up with to say, hey, just add accept EULA. It will get everybody then aware of the fact that there is a EULA. My fear is actually a lot of people have auto rolled forward onto Wix 6, not realizing that they've accepted a EULA every time. And then it's like, that's a little concerning. And I don't like that people have accidentally accepted a EULA because the .NET team didn't do anything. But so that's this. Would you pass it? And yes, you would pass it every time because that's the easiest thing rather than try to get into some sort of set this or here or do that. The idea is like, yeah, just send the command line and then you don't have to worry about it. You're going to automate it. So just put it in there. This does not mean that there's like license keys or anything like that. The purpose still is the honor system, which honestly has been working out very well for Wix. We've been getting lots of people when they recognize it, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I can do that. So generally conversations with businesses have been around the process of paying GitHub. And that process is continuing to be improved. So the next set of work is to basically say, hey, there's a lot of people that probably don't even know that this is happening, especially if they're using wix.exe. Because if you just say .NET tool install Wix, you're getting a product that has a EULA in it that you didn't even know because the Wix or the .NET tool didn't tell you when you installed it. So it's very easy to miss if you're just running it from the command line. So this is the idea of to make it easy, simple, something you just put in.
But it's explicit.
And it's explicit, right? So you're like, you'll be prompted. And there'll be a nice message to say, hey, you didn't specify accept EULA. Here's terms. Well, we'll kind of workshop how much does it display? Does it print the entire EULA for you? Does it just say, hey, here, go look at the EULA? I mean, we'll refine that, get a good message for when you don't have the accept EULA. And then when you do, poof, it just works. And like I said before, there's no deep licensing checks or things you have to go do. The purpose here is to continue to roll out the education process around the maintenance fee. Lots of people like to talk about enforcement. In fact, it's the thing that everybody brings up to me when I talk about the open source maintenance fee. Like, well, how are you going to enforce it? How are you going to make people do it? And I'm like, I'm just going to tell them. And most people do the right thing because it's a logical thing to do. And it's not an expensive fee. And people are like, it'll never work. But it's working. It's working. I think we're just missing a lot of people that don't even know about the change because, they're not tightly bound to the community. They're just using it and building things. So that's the idea behind this. It's not... I would rather the .NET team did it because I think that's the right place for accepting a EULA to live. People expect it in the install process, but they're showing signs of wanting to remove the whole concept of accepting a EULA in their world. So they're definitely going the other direction rather than making this easier to do. Plus, I've been thinking a lot about how to solve this for SDK style projects where there's no real good time in the UI to present the user with a, hey, to load your project, you need to download this package. That window is hard to
Yeah, there's
find in there.
no initialization point where you can prompt.
Yeah, no. So and even inside Visual Studio, right? It just will like, oh, you need this. It'll go get it for you. Um, so the idea here is we'll bring the accept EULA into our space with the simplest solution possible. I've talked to a few people about this, and they're all like, yeah, that's about as simple as it is. And as long as you're not going to go do heavy enforcement that I think you have to do, which I don't think we need to do, yeah, it's probably the nicest way to go do that. All right, so I'm flowing it out here to get people's reactions generally. Zach's question about do you have to pass it all time was the exact same thing that Bob asked me the first time I brought up. Yeah, so yeah, we could try caching the acceptance, but I don't know that it's worth like, doing that. And
It
I
makes it
think
less
that
explicit.
yeah, it's less
Problem
explicit.
on a build machine is where you're going to see it.
It only happens if you run it from the command line. That's the only time you have to type it many times. And if you're using MS Build, then you just set the property and you're done. So I don't know the value of caching it, doing the work to cache the response. But
My only concern would be the build machine, where you're not. You're going to have to do something there other than the sysinternals approach. Sysinternals will prompt you the first time you run something,
yeah,
but
you don't run their stuff in the build lab usually.
well, process monitor is really really handy.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So I think if you put this in your command line, the question is how many people are typing on the command. How many people
Yeah,
are typing wix.exe on the command line over and over?
no one. But so Zach's point I think is that if you just pull a Wix proj or a batch file or whatever that has it baked in, you've reduced the number of people who know about the license to whoever wrote it,
Sure.
whoever wrote that Wix proj.
Yep. Yep. But and if that's really important, we could have a way of caching the result. I mean, it would be in your roaming profile or whatever, in your local data, store a file that says, "Hey, I accepted the license." And all right, great, we could check for that file.
Did you forget the registry? Come on.
We could do that too. We could put it registry. I don't think we have anything that writes registry keys right now, so I don't know that I put it there. But yeah, that would be an option if a lot of people are like, no, I really want to be able to say accept EULA, run the command Wix accept EULA once, and then not have to do it because I run this on the command line a lot. I guess.
Yeah, I'll admit it would get kind of annoying. It would get kind of annoying for if you're not so much the build stuff, but the Wix MSI decompile. It's the ancillary commands that are
True.
built into Wix that
So that would be an easy add on top of it that we could look at doing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, let me accept this once. Just remember, and then like, okay, we can remember. You've accepted it, and move on. It's harder to back up to, actually, I want everyone to see this at least once. If you start, you have to automate it. Well, someone has to automate it. The idea being that there's someone that went through it once and went, oh, this is a thing. And then that's what we need is that someone needs to say, oh, this is a thing, and solves it.
Right now, the minimum is 0.
Right. And
We could increase it to 1 very easily.
right. And then we could remember that one. We could do that. So I'll take that look at that and keep it in mind. Again, it's not, that won't be hard if that really is a thing. And honestly, it might be that, we use it, Bob, and we're like, okay, no, it needs to remember because I'm tired of typing this.
Right.
And we're like, nope, Zach was right. This is annoying. We're going to remember. It's going to say, remember this. We'll be like, okay, fine. Write that little block of code to do that.
Debug builds don't count, right?
I'm sorry?
Debug builds don't count?
Yeah,
okay.
I just easy, make it happen. Just
right.
The goal here is to make it really easy, really simple, and continue to try to help raise the awareness of the issues here, so that everybody's kind of like, okay, I got it. Makes sense. Cool. I wish I had this in 6, knowing that the .NET team was going to ignore the require license acceptance.
Right.
I will probably come back and ask the question. I'll ask it now. Should we add it to 6? It's a breaking change, so it would be very hard to add to 6. And I'm concerned people are like don't realize they're accepting a EULA and getting into stuff that they don't want to be involved in. The goal was never to sneak up on people, right? We try to talk about it, all that stuff. So when the .NET team didn't support the require license acceptance, which just I mentally did not believe they wouldn't do, being Microsoft. Right. I couldn't believe that Microsoft would ignore their own license acceptance bits in their own packages, but they do. They just ignore them from the .NET team. I was like, there's no way that they're just going to be like, yeah, this isn't important. But they did. So I worry. I feel a little bit worried about the people who are like, I'm installing 6. What do you mean there's a EULA? I'm like, well, you've been using this whole thing and there's this EULA, and yeah, there's nothing along the way that told you. Sorry. We thought there would be. Unless you install a NuGet package through Visual Studio, then it does the right thing. Then you're like,
but
wait,
not the SDK.
Huh? But no, not the SDK. Not the SDK. It has to be a package reference. Right. Yes, you have to add one of the extensions. So anyway, all right. So something like this, we'll figure. We'll refine it. We'll get it. We'll probably play with it a little bit. There'll be a couple builds where we tweak it around and all that kind of good stuff, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, that's that. That were the things I wanted to get comments on, people's ideas and stuff like that. So I appreciate feedback. Other things people want to talk about, other stuff out there. November will be the next meeting, which sounds kind of crazy, but yeah, we're already to November. And yeah, I don't have anything else. Bob, do you have anything else? Stuff going on?
Nothing else.
No.
Nothing else.
No. So my life has finally mostly started settling down. So I finally have like free time, and I'm fixing a bunch of WiX things where I've been completely slammed in the past. So this is nice I feel like I'm breathing a little bit and not so much pressure on things. So, yeah. I say that now I'm going to go get hit by something I didn't expect. But anyway, that's what we're doing. We're at 30 minutes. I think that's a pretty good meeting. Nobody else is bringing anything else up. I always try to leave it open here. Right now, we're leaning towards taking .NET 10 for WiX 7 and thinking about whether we need to remember the accept EULA bit in WiX 7 together. We'll figure out. Those are two kind of things to go refine and decide. So, yeah, that's all I got. We'll be back in a month. We'll do all this again. Those of you that are following the Deployment Dojo, there are a bunch of backlogged episodes that should be coming out in the next couple weeks, and then the Deployment Dojo will be there's 2 extra weeks right? So you're in luck. There should be a Deployment Dojo replay the next 2 weeks, and then the live shows the week after that. So lots of stuff if you want to hear me babble at you some more. All those come out at the same kind of time slot, Wednesdays at 10:30. Live show will be November 5th at 10:30. Until then, if you're only interested in WiX commentary and that kind of stuff. We'll see you November 19th, 2025. Later, everybody. Bye.
I